This program is brought to you by Thai Vision Media, helping Stokvels and burial societies reach their goals. Welcome to Gizaga Stokvel Insights, a platform where Stokvel and burial society members learn more about the world of business, and business leaders get to understand Stokvels and burial societies a whole lot more. If you would like us to answer some questions that your Stokvel or burial society has, please send us a voice note using the number below. You can also contact us using the email info@thaivisionmedia.co.za. Or if you would like to get in touch with us and share your insightful thoughts, please do follow us across the social media platforms below. Today, we look at how to increase funds and increase monthly contributions without losing membership. And once again, joining me in studio is our resident guest expert in this field, Thabiso Masurubele from Thai Vision Media. But before we get into the discussion quickly, this week's question is from 2016 Ladies Club Burial Society based in Vosloorus, Gauteng.
Mina igama lami ngoNkateko Mthombeni from Vosloorus. Igama leclub yethu 2016 Ladies Club Burial Society. Si 25 and sishayela ama-200 every month. So if a member ishonile skipper 6.5 and then each and every member ishaya esikhwameni ishithenga igroceries neville bese siyahambisa. So thina besiwisha nje ukuthi singakhuphula imali if umuntu ushonelwe, maybe umuntu athole 12.5 but asazi ukuthi singakwenza kanjani lokho, then nisincede nokuthi isikhwama sethu sisikhulisa kanjani, because if umuntu ushonelwe thina futhi siphinde si replace imali, sikhipha ama-50 rand siwabuyisele bank. So ngicabanga ukuthi nalokho kuyasinceda ukuthi isikhwama sethu singayihli.
A Stokvel is a type of credit union in which a group of people enter into an agreement to contribute a fixed amount of money to a common pool weekly or monthly. But what happens when the agreed amount no longer suffices and requires members to look at different methods to ensure the survival of their burial society? Ntate Masurubele, just looking at what Usiska Nkateko shared with us, that the burial society currently has 25 members that are contributing 200 Rand monthly. First of all, is that enough? Does the current model work for them?
No, I would say the current model doesn't work. That's simply because what the model does is that it uses firstly a savings account as funeral policy. Secondly is that how they determine the benefit and the premium is something that's not gone through a rigorous actuarial process. So on the basis of that, I would say that this model doesn't work. I mean, I can give you an example. So if they say they've got 20 members, 25 members, and they each giving 200 Rand. So that's 5,000 Rand that they're depositing every month. And in the event of a claim, they're paying out 6,500 Rand. So in the event that they would have two claims, it means they would be unable to honor the second claim because they'd have a total of approximately 10,000 Rand. And the liability would be 6,500 times 2, which is 13,000 Rand. And we have not even started to mention that the banking charges and all sorts of charges that may affect the initial amount that they'd have in a savings account. So on that basis alone, I'd say that the model is not sustainable and it's not something that would work.
You just touched on situations where there's more than one claim. I think a lot of individuals can relate to the fact that you join a burial society, one member experiences more than one death, 3 or more within the space of 24 months. So what impact does that have on the survival of a burial society like this?
It has a huge impact. In fact, what we've seen outside of 2016 as a group, what we've seen is that you had groups that use the same model. And then to your point, where one family was able to, within a 12-month period, make 4 or 5 claims because the Stokvel had a surplus. They had a decent amount of money in their savings account. So they were able to honor the different claims that came through based on that. And again, because there was no actuarial process that was followed, and there were no rules and guidelines around claiming and, limits on claims and so on, what we found that one family would make 4 claims and get paid out. And in the next year, you'd have a family which has less members making 1 claim and then being told that there are insufficient funds to honor their claim.
Or they don't make a claim at all.
But the challenge becomes when they do make a claim. Because remember that the most important thing with funeral policies is you need it at the time that you've got a bereavement. This is the time where you need the money most. And you need it within a short space of time. So you've been paying premiums. You've watched how your burial society has honored the claims of your neighbor. When it's your turn to make a claim, then they say the resources have been exhausted and they're unable to honor your claim. One, it leads to possibly the splitting of the group, meaning that the group no longer exists. But more importantly and more dangerously, it leads to an animosity between neighbors. And then it starts leading to accusations amongst members to say, you stole the money, you did this, we did that. And then what that does, it then goes against the whole grain of starting a burial society.
Now, if the current model isn't working right now, what is the right amount to start off with when you're trying to join or create a burial society?
I think the most important thing, there seems to be a trust deficit between financial institutions, or rather from Stokvels with financial institutions. But I want to talk about the advantages that you have. So one of the important things about having an insurer attached to your burial society is to ensure that the claim is honored, provided you pay your premiums on a monthly, is to make sure that regardless of the number of claims that you might have, those claims would be honored. So what we normally tell groups is that make sure that if you're paying a premium for funeral cover, it has to be with an authorized financial service provider where you've got recourse in the event that the claim is not honored and you've been honoring your part. But more often than not, claims are honored where people have been paying premiums. And so it deals with that aspect of making sure that even if you have 10 claims a month, those claims are honored. And secondly, it helps provide a realistic overview of what needs to be paid for what benefit. And I think what happens more often than not is that people sit around a table and they say, how much money would you like to get when there's a funeral? No, I think 10,000 Rand is a good amount.
And it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. You say 10,000 Rand is a good amount. And then how much do you want to pay? I can only afford 100 Rand. And then you look at the numbers and you say you're paying 100 Rand and you're getting a 10,000 Rand premium. The numbers don't add up. And that's why then it becomes difficult for them when they get to a regulated and authorized financial service provider expecting to pay 100 Rand for a benefit that's 10,000 Rand, and then they continue on this unsustainable and dangerous model that they're working on.
I think there's so much for us to unpack right here on, especially how they can raise those funds to sort out the loopholes that they currently have in their structure. Let's take a short break. Stay tuned for more on Gizag Stokvel Insights. Are you a member of a Stokvel or burial society? We at Thai Vision Media specialize in helping Stokvels and burial societies. Contact us for professional Stokvel and burial society administration, access to investments and funeral cover experts, and credible financial information. We will help your Stokvel and burial society to achieve your goals and grow. Contact us today. Welcome back to Gizag Stokvel Insights, where we explore the world of Stokvels and burial societies. Before the break, we touched on the potential risks of having low monthly contributions in a burial society with my resident guest expert, Thabiso Masurubele from Thai Vision Media. Now, let's look at the ways 2016 Ladies Club Burial Society can grow their membership further. Nomzane, now, can we just look at why should you choose to belong to a burial society as opposed to taking out funeral policies or funeral insurance with an insurance company?
Yeah, I think this goes back to the main purpose of why people join burial societies. I mean, we're all at liberty to join to take out a funeral policy as individuals for yourself and your family and so on. But I think what burial society structure offers is the structure of community, in that you're not alone. And I think when you look at it within the context of South Africa, is that even though you as an individual have funeral cover, you're not going to run that funeral as an individual or as a family alone. The whole community participates in making sure that the funeral goes well. I mean, there's a lot of work to do. The nature of the funerals that we have within our communities necessitate that you require support and assistance from different family members, from community members, and so on. So the function of a funeral, remember, it's also a cultural thing. So in certain communities, funerals are a family affair and they happen that way. But within the communities of burial societies, funerals are a community affair. So that's where community comes in, to say that you might have a decent funeral cover that pays out, but you'll sit with all of those resources and your funeral might not go the way you want it because there's no community involvement and participation. So for us, it's always important to remind even the big insurers that it's not just about the premium, and it's about community as well. So even if you do get your benefits, how do those benefits help within the context of a burial society, given that it's about community and helping hands? And a lot of burial societies refer to themselves as helping hands, where people have to peel vegetables as opposed to, even though people can afford to source catering and pay for it. But the whole idea of preparing the food as a community brings community together, which is where burial society started, actually, where there was a need for resources, and community got together, where there was a particular family maybe which didn't have the resources to be able to provide a dignified funeral for a particular community member. And then the idea that let's club together to make sure that we have a dignified send-off for someone, so that it's not particularly obvious that they're less privileged than the rest of us. And that's where it started. And I think that's why people join a burial society as opposed to just having individual funeral policies.
Now, Nkateko explains that members are currently giving 6.5 thousand rand and would like to increase the benefit to 12.5 thousand rand. So what are the challenges here with making those shifts?
I think the challenge is that they have not necessarily gone through a process of determining what a particular premium should be for a particular benefit. So for me, that would be the main challenge, is that they have come up with a figure, and which is a benefit, and they have come up with a premium. But those two things don't necessarily correlate and don't necessarily show the sustainability that they'd be able to provide, because they then say it happens that they have to pay an additional 50 rand because their resources in the bank keep depleting, understandably so. So one of the challenges that the use, again, of a savings account for funeral insurance purposes. So for as long as they're using a savings account to honor funeral claims, they're going to consistently have that challenge. And at some point, they won't be contributing an additional 50 rand towards making sure that their funds don't deplete. They're going to have to cough out more. So one of the things that they should look at is making sure that they're paying a premium to an authorized FSP, which then guarantees that they'll be able to get the amount that they want. But the challenge for them is that that amount that they want as a benefit is going to determine what premium they pay. So that premium, in all likelihood, would be higher because there's an actuarial process that determines what the premium should be for a particular benefit. You'll find that most burial societies, they have even people who are 85 plus years pay the same premium as someone who's 22. And we know mathematically it's not, a viable thing. People who are generally younger pay a less premium because of their risk profile. So that whole process, they haven't gone through that whole process of assessing what the premium is based on individual risk profiles.
Now, what would be their strategy of having or having to sort of educate the members on the reasons on why they need to increase their monthly contributions? Because like you said, we join burial societies so that we are able to have a smoother process when it comes to funerals. But here now, it's no more 200 Rand monthly contributions. Now we're bumping it up. So how can they teach and motivate and retain their members?
I think the starting point would be the reason why they want to move from 6,500 Rand to 12,500 Rand. So the reasoning behind that would probably be because things are expensive. Things are moving up. You know, what you buy for 6,500 Rand is not the same and doesn't suffice in terms of what you're then giving to the bereaved family. So that's a starting point. To say that given that you are moving from 6,500 to 12,500, there is an increase. And I think people are wired in such a way that people accept that every year things, even though they might not necessarily understand the technical concept of inflation, but people understand that every year prices change, prices do go up, everything goes up. So that's the starting point. But it's also then to sit down with members to say the way we've been doing it and be transparent with members. To say the way that we're doing it, you will see on our bank statement, we used to have, as an example, we used to have 100,000 Rand. We've paid out 10 claims or 5 claims or whatever it is. We're now at 40,000 Rand. What this realistically means is that we'll only be able to pay 5 claims with the current deposit that we have in the bank. And so that's a huge risk for the group. And so to mitigate that risk, it then necessitates that we review the premium that we are paying. So one of the things they look at is to say, perhaps if people can't afford the premium that's associated with a 12.5 thousand payout, you then look at a lesser benefit, which is not 12.
Now, let's just put a hold on that. We will get right back to it after the break. Please do stay with us. Are you a member of a Stokvel or burial society? We at Thai Vision Media specialize in helping Stokvels and burial societies. Contact us for professional Stokvel and burial society administration, access to investments and funeral cover experts, and credible financial information. We will help your Stokvel and burial society to achieve your goals and grow. Contact us today. Welcome back to Zaga Stokvel Insights. If you've just joined us, we are looking at the structure of burial societies and how members can restructure their model to reach their desired goal with my resident guest expert, Thabiso Masurubele from Thai Vision Media. Ndate Masurubele, before the break, we were just looking at how the burial society can motivate their members to stay and how they can also look at ways of recruiting more people. And you were just touching on how transparency is key. Can you just continue with that?
Yeah. So I think because then you're talking about costs that are going up, you need to take people along with you on that journey to be able to justify why you're moving from paying 100 Rand to 200 Rand for that premium, so that it becomes easier for people to relate to why that change. It's not just something that you're thumb-sucking. So you then go back and say, our benefit has been 6,500 Rand. And we've all agreed that 6,500 Rand doesn't cover the costs that need covering during a funeral. So we all agreed that 6,500 Rand has to increase. So equally, the premium also needs to increase. But with the increase of the premium, you then also share the bank statements to say, this is the current balance that we have. And on this current balance, with the benefit that we have, it's a simple calculation of taking the total balance that you have divided by the benefit that you pay per claim. That gives you the number of claims that you can honor. And then what then that does is that once you make it clear that you can honor with the balance that you have, you can only honor 5 claims. And then people start wondering that, but we've got 100 insured lives, but we can only honor 5 claims. What happens in the event that my claim is claim number 8? What does that mean? It means simply that your claim will not be honored. because you're using that amount that's in the savings account. So it becomes very important for people to share and be honest and be very transparent to say, this is the situation. Going down the line, we run a very real risk of you guys accusing us of having squandered all the group's money, which is not the case. What would have squandered the resources would be all the claims that have come in. So having a look at that challenge, we then have to engage with an entity that's registered, that's authorized, that even if we have 30 claims, they'll be able to honor those claims. And how they determine what the premium is determined by what we choose the benefit to be. So you'll have someone who sits with the group and says, how much are you guys looking at? But remember that the amount that you're looking at has an impact on how much you'd be paying. We'd all like to get 100,000 Rand for a claim, but we can't all afford the premium that's associated with 100,000 Rand. So the process of sharing that information and being transparent becomes very important.
Just touching on that subject of honesty and transparency, Nkateko did touch on how, she wants the Burial Society to grow even further, just improving and increasing their savings. So how can burial societies generate income? How can they raise funds?
Yeah. So there'll be different circumstances for different burial societies because of locality, because of the different circumstances. But generally, there are different ways that burial societies can build up reserves for themselves, if they like. So the closest thing that we always look at is burial societies, by the nature of what they do, have become quite good at providing a service, a funeral service, just outside of being a funeral parlor themselves, because they know a lot about catering, especially the catering aspect, because I think that's where burial societies play a huge role, outside of the service that's provided by the funeral parlor, you have the burial society, helping to with the vegetables and preparing the meals and so on. So that gives people an experience, and that experience can then be monetized. How can it be monetized? It becomes a catering service that they provide not only for funerals, because catering, you're preparing food, and preparing food, you can prepare food for funerals, you can prepare food for weddings, you can prepare food for traditional ceremonies, and so on. So what are the things that are attached to that as a service?
But just touching on that, just them having to diversify and also offer catering services. There are a lot of catering companies out there. So how can they have that competitive edge and also just be a key player within the economy?
Yes. So what you then have, you then look at your locality. So most catering company becomes a price war, if you like. So because, remember, price is determined by different factors. So for instance, if you have to go rent the pots and the pans and the stoves, you're going to be paying some other people. But if you own those assets, you're then able to determine what the price becomes. So what these groups then look at, we've had examples where we've engaged with burial societies where they've had money in their account. They then invested in the equipment that they know that they need. And then either when they're not catering, doing the catering themselves, they rent out the equipment for revenue. And then because of the fact that they own those assets, they then able to then look at the market and say, what are the average prices? What's our value proposition? If there are 10 catering companies, they are dealing to which target market, where's our target market? So then they start looking at it from a business point of view to say, as this business end of the society, we have to be clear in terms of which market we're targeting. So we're not going to target the high-end market where people are looking at spending 100,000 Rand on catering budget, but we think there's a gap in the lower end of the market, which is where we play, which is where we say we'd be able to provide competitive pricing and a competitive service for people because we understand that particular market. And then that opportunity lies in. But as in any industry, they have to compete. Commerce is competition. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a tough road, but they have to make sure that everyone understands that's the direction the burial society is taking.
It would have been great for Nkateko to give us more information, like when the burial society starts as well, just so that we can track their progress. Yeah. And I'm sure it would have been easier for you as well to see where else can they grow as well.
100%, it would have been.
The reasons for the emergence of burial societies are historical, economic, and cultural. As the industry continues to grow, more and more financial solutions are being designed for the nation's Stokvels. If your Stokvel or burial society needs to know more about this broad topic, please do contact us using the details on the screen. Until next week, that's it from me and my team. Goodbye. This program was brought to you by Thai Vision Media, helping Stokvels and burial societies reach their goals.